Hey everyone, it's Chris from Lion Punch Forge. Today we are going to start on a series. The series is going to be about air chasing and fold forming of metal. Basically what we're going to do is do kind of a first time basic video, and then the next in the series will be just a continuation of those skills in different applications. But before we start, I'd like to thank you for helping me reach over 200 subscribers. I appreciate it. It's awesome. I love to hear the comments and the likes and the dislikes and all that stuff. I love to hear all of it. So please continue that. Like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you guys leave a comment in the bottom, and that'll help me keep going. So I'm going to try and keep talk and drawing on the pad to a minimum and do a little bit more work with this. So air chasing, the air portion of it applies to the air between where you're chasing and where you're hitting. So regular chasing, you have a pitch pod or you have a leather bag or something else soft that you can drive the metal down into. We're driving the metal down into air, so hence air chasing. What happens is that air pocket, let's create our metal. So here's our flat metal. What we're going to do is bend it over like this, put this part in a vise right here. So this is all in a vise. Make sure this is annealed, and then we're going to start pushing this metal down into itself, into that air gap, all over the place. And we can use different types of textures, we can use all sorts of fun stuff. You can draw out a pattern that you want to follow. You can pretty much, sky's the limit. I brought a couple things out here to the table before we head into the studio. Different types of hammers. This is a square, like a square cross peen. It's got two different size squares on either side. This one's a little bit more rounded, and I'll show how those work. I have my brass and my copper hammers for hitting my DAP punches, and of course DAP punches. That's basically what we're going to use as tools today. That's about it. We are going to anneal a couple times in between our chasing. The metal is going to get hard working it. Remember, copper, brass, silver, they all get hard as you hammer them, and then you have to anneal. So we'll do that a couple times. That is pretty much the basics of air chasing. What you can do is, I'm going to do this on camera right now. I'm going to fold this over and show you what I mean by making that fold. Just like that. And that's what we're going to use to air chase. You can also use annealed copper pipe. This stuff is fun to make, and I'm going to do a video on how to make that kind of stuff. You can make stuff that looks like reptile skin. You can do all sorts of fun stuff with the pipes. So different sizes, different shapes, different methods, and then eventually we're going to transition air chasing into a combination of air chasing and fold forming. So this is going to be a multi-part series. It's not all going to come out at the same time, but it'll be a continuation thing so you guys can follow along. All right, well, let's get into the studio. All right, we are in the studio, in the workshop, in the big vise. So I've got my piece of copper that's bent over, air bubbles right through the middle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start let's make a design just so we can follow it. Crossways here, crossways here, crossways here. So I'm going to do cross peen, and then I'm going to dap in the center, and then I'm going to dap on either side. So that's kind of the pattern I'm going to follow, and I will have to anneal this a few times. So I'm going to do a couple, then I'm going to go to time lapse, and we'll come back probably after I anneal it for the first time. Cross peen. Hammers. Too many hammers. Let's use this guy. Oh, there it is. hammer and another hammer, and I'm going to direct my strikes with that. And all I'm doing is just bending that down. See these bubbles starting to form? Those are where I'm going to dap more down into. Okay, I'm going to anneal this so I can keep going. I'm going to go to time lapse, and then I'm going to use some dapping punches on kind of forming that so you guys can watch what's happening there. Longer videos tend not to get a whole lot of time watching, so I will vary my talking, and then I'll do a lot of time lapse too with this one, just because there's a lot of stuff going on, and most of it's exactly as we talked about already. If there is something different, I'll pop you off time lapse, and we'll talk a little bit about it. All right, bye. All right, I'm back. I am on my second working anneal, and I noticed I pounded down one of the wings here that I was holding it, but you know, that's fine. I got something to hold on to it already, so I'm gonna throw it in there, clamp it down, and just keep on going, calling it good. Now, what I've done is I've used a larger dapping punch to get my holes started, and then I started refining those holes with a smaller dapping punch. What I'm doing is I'm pushing those ridges down so that I can make them more defined, and then pushing them back in. And right now this is only done with that cross peen hammer to kind of make my lines, and then just dapping punches. The more texture you get on this, the cooler it's going to look. You can definitely tell when the metal starts to get harder. Make sure you take full advantage of your anneal and try and work about every part of the metal you can. I like to take anything that's really long like this without a texture and just tap it. Get some more texture in there. The texture is going to make it look more realistic. You'll get a lot of very natural looking forms. A lot of the time this will look like reptile skin, it'll look like lichen, moss, any of those type of plant forms. And then now that I'm here, I'm going to take this little tiny dab punch, and I'm just going to move it all around. Define some of those ridges. the last thing I'm going to do before I anneal again is just take one of my round hammer and just start doing some cross hatching on it. Now, at any point you see what you like, you can completely stop what you're doing. I'm just adding more texture to kind of show what the possibilities are. Here's a squared. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna put you guys on time lapse for a minute. I'm gonna anneal, and I'm going to take this out of the vise and unfold it. So we'll see what happens. Okay, after annealing, unfolding, and then going over with a wire wheel to remove all the oxides, this is what I'm left with. I'm left with a highly textured, very organic looking, kind of almost like tree bark, or you can make it look like reptile skin, or pretty much whatever you want. The crater of the moon, that's what you are. So no one pattern is going to be the same as the next. You can try, but it's just not going to work out that way. And this makes some pretty awesome elements for other pieces of jewelry. I've cut out different sections with the textures that I like, made necklaces, made earrings, used them, incorporated into decorative stuff in some of my woodwork. I did a knife block for a knife that I forged with the pattern plate like this on either side of the knife block. So honestly, I got the hiccups today. Anything is possible. I mean, it's such an awesome pattern, and it's so easy. It takes very, very few tools. Hammers. If you don't have dapping punches, you can use the back of a ball peen hammer and another hammer to drive the ball peen into the pattern exactly where you want it. So you really don't even need dapping punches. You can make your own punches, you can use stamps, you can whatever you want. Sky's the limit. All you need to do is chase it back down into the air bubble, into the design that you want. And then you have something you can throw in your pile of metal for, design inspiration. So, as always, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. The button down here for subscribe. If you guys like what you're seeing, you want to see more videos like this, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, or even a thumbs down. Thumbs up, doesn't matter. To me, all feedback is feedback. So, as always, I appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next video.